Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Dirty 30.
Watch out! Get out of my way! Stop! Move! Go back! Go back! Go back!
Dirty 30.
Hey! Come back! You'll be killed! You'll be killed!
Dirty 30.
Oh, yeah. Start the clock. Dirty 30. Emergency pod. Heat in that call. Dan Hanzus with Marc Sessler. And because it's about that real griminess on the coaching carousel, that grease flying all, getting on everyone's blouse, on the spouse of the blouse, or the blouse of the spouse. We got to get James Palmer in here, too, to break down everything that's been going down in the last 12 hours or so. We could wait and hit it in a slight capacity on the Sunday show when we're talking about who's going to the goddamn Super Bowl, or we can do it right now.
That's right.
So we will. And James, thanks, buddy, for joining us on short notice.
I love it. The grease reminded me of a carnival that comes to town and gets popped up and then taken back down real quickly. And when you look at the rides, there's like those big clumps of like grease to make sure they kind of function. That's me right now, apparently, according to you.
Right. The carnival that also, and then you look close, like, oh, there's a human finger.
Yeah.
There's some teeth.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's a blood stain in the grass. Very dangerous, those rides. But we don't have time, Mark. We don't have time to talk about the safety requirements or lack thereof of traveling carnies. This is Dirty 30.
That's a different show. We'll get to that topic at some point and go deep into it. But we have James here for a reason. We've got 30 minutes to unpack a lot of news.
Exactly 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And as you see the clock in the corner there telling us so. So let's get into it. There are 3 big stories, and who knows, there could be more that comes here in the Dirty 30 within. So let's dig in with the big one first. The one that kind of really got people going down there in Jacksonville. Buccaneers offense coordinator Liam Coen agrees to a deal to join the Jaguars as their head coach. This comes, less than a day after we learned that Trent Baalke, the GM, who Shad Khan, the owner of the Jags, had decided to keep in a controversial decision. He reverses course. He fires his GM weeks after he fired his head coach right after the season ended. And there's so much to this, James. And I thought Burt Breer, our former colleague at NFL Network, did a great job giving the minutia, the granular details of how it all happened, which is really it. I mentioned the word grimy. That was my feeling on reading this, how Coen kind of handled his business here to get what he wanted, how the Rooney Rule got circumvented and got a jolly Rogering in this case, with poor Patrick Graham this time being the recipient of said Rogering, and just how the sausage gets made in the NFL. This case that ends with Coen joining Jacksonville is a fascinating one.
Yeah, and this reminds me slightly, but this was even stranger than the Josh McDaniels one, where guys were actually hired to be a part of his staff in Indianapolis, and then he backtracks and departs, and those guys are stuck. I think Matt Eberflus was actually one of those guys that are stuck there in Indianapolis after he went back to New England. But this one's a little bit different, and I want to actually focus on the real twist. I don't think Liam Coen shifting back is the real twist. I told you guys, I think I was on this show at the beginning of this whole cycle was, number of candidates I talked to said, if Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson are gone, it's the most attractive job in the cycle. That was said to be by multiple candidates, whether they were GM candidates or head coaching candidates. What did we see immediately after Trent Baalke and the Jaguars parted ways? Their number one candidate pulled a full U-turn and went back to Jacksonville. Like, if that doesn't show you how big Trent Baalke is in this compared to all of us looking at what Liam Coen was doing as a part to taking this contract, going to be the highest paid coordinator in NFL history, and then going back to Jacksonville, Trent Baalke's the linchpin in all of this. And I think that's even a bigger story than Liam Coen's turn. And we can talk about Coen again, but I want you guys' take. But I think Trent is actually the bigger story.
What is it about Baalke that is so repulsive to, repulsive's a little bit. Listen, this is dirty 30. Sometimes the word like repulsive gets into the
Why is he so disliked?
But why so disliked? Why was he someone that was repelling people like Liam Coen and perhaps Ben Johnson is another example from that otherwise, solid position with Trevor Lawrence as the QB?
Because there is a poorly kept secret, or just blatantly out in the open, you could say it, that he has the ear of Shad Khan. And when you're down there coaching and he's in the owner's box next to the owner, he has the ability to manipulate Shad Khan. That is what the perception is around the league. And you've seen it happen the way he stayed in San Francisco multiple times, and now the way that he has stayed and found a way to stay in Jacksonville multiple times. When you feel like you don't have an equal playing field, it's very dangerous for a coach. There's a reason Doug Peterson took that job. You know why? I was told directly, because he had no other options. So he said, you know what? I want to be a head coach again. And if this is a situation I have to operate in, I'm going to try to find a way to make this relationship work. They tried, both of them, the Jaguars, everyone tried, and it deteriorated once again. And so when you are a head coaching candidate that's good enough to have multiple options, then you don't put yourself in that situation. And that's why you don't land the candidates that are at the top of the pool.
I feel like the Khan ownership experience has taken a hit big time this offseason, because I think he was seen as a forward-thinking, reasonable individual. That's how I always felt about him, having met him once or twice myself. And they got the candidate they wanted, but at the same time, I look at it as a Bucs story too, where you now have Baker Mayfield on his 18th offensive coordinator. That was working so well, and the Bucs have to feel burned. They have to feel annoyed by this whole situation. But it's not to me. It's just like another NFL story in the coaching cycle. All
right, so let's and this involves obviously how the Bucs ended up getting banged on this, despite trying their very best to keep Coen, including, and this came from the Burt reporting in that article, that Coen went to the Bucs and said, "Hey, I'm interested in this job in Jacksonville," and they were like, what can we do? And he gave them a number that made him by far the highest paid coordinator in the history of football, and that was the deal that led to all the what he did, cloak and dagger. He didn't want to lose that offer, but he also wanted to continue to investigate this Jacksonville opportunity which is a nice little bit of how the sausage gets made in this. A clause in the new offer from Tampa was that offer goes away if you take a second interview with Jacksonville. Hayden Winks, our buddy, it was a big Underdog show. We got a lot of Titans.
Yeah, we got a lot going on.
We got some dogs with Underdog, and we're very proud of that. Sent out a great tweet with a timeline of all this. It starts on January 12th. Jags owner says Baalke would be fired if a new head coach wants him out. And Baalke's on the Zoom. Let's check that out. Let's take a look at that.
This is wild.
So I'd actually like to go back to John's first question, Shad, back to you. I know you noted that if this head coaching candidate was to say, hey, I think the medical needs to be reevaluated, the health and wellness, if they were to say, I would like to reevaluate the front office and the general manager, what would your response be?
My response would be, how would you improve it? And then if it is credible, you want to do it, okay?
and if you're listening to the show, this is a split screen Zoom where Trent Baalke is sitting there stone faced like Super Dave Osborne from Arrested Development season 3 as the conduit for.
This would be like us George just Fluke. Firing like Justin on air right now. If we just fired Justin.
Yeah. Which we would never do. And it's weird that Mark keeps on talking about that, almost fantasizing about it. So that happens on 112. On 115, Coen interviews on Zoom with the Jags. 120, Coen interviews in person. 122 in the morning, Coen agrees to an extension with the Bucs as the highest paid OC ever. Later that morning, the Jaguars owner goes on tilt. Hayden says, I'm not sure what that means. 122 in the PM, Jaguars fire Trent Baalke as their general manager. 1:23 in the morning, Coen flies to Jaguars headquarters. 1:23 in the morning, Bucs repeatedly go straight to Coen's voicemail as they didn't get a signature on his agreed-to contract. Later that afternoon, Coen tells Bucs head coach Todd Bowles he's at the doctor's with his kid and mentions he's speaking with the Jaguars. And then later in the afternoon, yesterday, the 23rd, Coen agrees to be Jaguars head coach. And this is all, James, set against the backdrop of before the Jaguars can even lock in Coen, they need to keep this quiet because they have not satisfied the Rooney Rule. They have to have a second minority candidate come in. Bob Saleh was one, and then poor Patrick Graham is kept in the dark on this entire plan because they just need the Raiders defensive coordinator to get on a plane and get in their building to satisfy the rule, which is gross, and again, why I call it a grimy story, and why the Rooney Rule is, while its intentions are good, is broken, and it demeans these guys like Patrick Graham who deserve a lot better.
Yeah, and the two gentlemen that were a part of one tweet, two separate interviews up in New England by Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton. The Patriots said, let's kill two birds with one stone in the Rooney Rule and put them both out in one tweet. Just we guys, we did it. Now let's hire Mike Vrabel. Now we're in an instance down here in Jacksonville. I don't know. Hey, maybe we throw Patrick Graham a bone and Liam Coen hires him as the defensive coordinator in Jacksonville. I don't know, because this is just another instance to where teams really have no regard for the Rooney Rule whatsoever, and it's put in place honestly, not to do exactly what we believe it does. It's to make sure that you're interviewing as many candidates and as diverse candidates as possible. And if you go ask the Chargers what it was like to interview the number of candidates they did, even though they knew they were going to get Jim Harbaugh, and the benefits that they had from that, because you get to know so many more people around the league, other jobs are going to come open within your organization. Things change in this league at the drop of a hat, and so you have the opportunity to learn more about other coaches that you wouldn't learn. And teams are actually, I think, doing themselves a disservice as they chase one candidate. They're not allowing themselves the ability to learn so much about so many other different, really, really good, talented coaches in this league. The part that I wanted to get at to you guys, and I find most fascinating, is one of the main reasons Liam Coen was open to going back and put the number out there for the Bucs to stay as their offensive coordinator. Yes, one, the situation wasn't exactly what he wanted in Jacksonville at first with Trent Baalke there. The other half of it is, if things don't go well in 2025, there's a very good chance he could have been the coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2026. He would be essentially the head coach in waiting in Tampa, and that's what was part of the allure of that being put in place. Okay, well, then I actually have the current spot that I'm in and other spots as well that could potentially be part of my head coaching search as being part of the cycle in 2026. So it also, it allowed him to sit in that spot, almost head coach in waiting, which the Bucs were completely cool with as well. It covered another basis for the organization as well. So that's the part that now the Bucs not only lose their assistant general manager and John Spytek, they also lose their offensive coordinator who played well with Baker Mayfield, but potentially the guy who could have been the head coach for them that they wanted to be their head coach if something went wrong with Todd Bowles in the future. So it hurts the Bucs multiple ways.
If I'm Liam Coen, remove the griminess part, look at a Bobby. You don't wait a year, because I think your stock can nosedive in a year. Look at a Bobby Slowik or someone where everyone wanted you, and then a year later you have no street cred, and so it's you take the job when you can get it. Yeah. I mean, it's dirty business, but you take it when you can get it.
No, agreed, Mark. But I would say, the situation in Tampa would allow it to be it wouldn't fall on me, and there's one that's waiting for me in a sense. So it's I don't want to say it's a layup opportunity because of exactly what you're saying is right, but it does give you kind of a little, the code to the side door to get the head coaching job.
Also, just to be real, and I'm done devaluing Baker Mayfield, who's gotten better and better, but Baker Mayfield coming off a season where he threw 41 touchdowns and 4,500 yards on a 70% completion percentage with a higher passer rating than even Tom Brady ever had, team record in Tampa. This is when you get out. This is when you pivot and take the job that you want, and you're not jumping to a team that doesn't have a quarterback. It makes sense. And finally, at long last, perhaps we'll be able to make a judgment on Trevor Lawrence now that he has a guy that's a proven quarterback whisperer in place with him. Now, not that he didn't have some guys that fit that on some level before, but truly with Coen, he's done such a great job. My one takeaway as a fan of a team that's run poorly, and Mark, you could attest to this as well. You can say that things ended in a good place with the Jaguars, so it's not a big deal. This still feels like soggy foundation, and in general, when you build on soggy foundation, buildings tend to crumble, and I still don't feel good about where the Jags are, even if I think it's a good hire for them. It's just you feel like the organization is still not in a great place, and this is dirty 30, so we got to keep moving. But I'd love for you guys to put a button on it. Yeah.
My little button is this. You're exactly right, because in every one of these instances, it's either the candidate or the organization desires the other more than the other. What ended up happening here is the Jaguars desperately needed somebody to fix Trevor Lawrence, desperately needed Liam Coen to come in, and did everything possible to land him, including salary, letting a first-time head coach hire a general manager, which is something that just doesn't happen. Now Liam Coen comes in, because the Jaguars did this on their soggy foundation, the ability for him now to come in and almost have absolute power in that building as a first-time head coach. And now you set that up with your desperation.
Shad and Tony Khan, the new soggy bottom boys.
Okay.
Dirty 30. All right,
Dirty
transition.
30.
Pete Carroll is back in the NFL. He is the new head coach, or about to be, of the Las Vegas Raiders, a 3-year deal. By the way, quick aside, Dirty 30.
Dirty
James,
30.
how come we don't get money? Why do we get years? Like, I want to know how much Liam Coen was going to get from the Bucs to be the highest paid OC ever. I would like to know, like, in general, how much money the coaches make. Why is that kept off the books, but all the player business is always out there?
Because the player business is public. These are not public. The players are public because of the salary cap, because they have to be there for every team to stay within the rules. There are no rules in the NFL on how much you pay your staff. You can pay your coordinators, as we just saw with Tampa, coordinators or head coaches or assistants, anybody. You can spend as much money as you choose. So really, you are not at liberty to tell anybody that, because these are also 32 independent companies.
You put Caveman in spot. He now understand it's not part of books, so it must not be shared.
Isn't like another aspect to it is that when you're an owner that fires a coach and an entire coaching staff after 1 year, like that number that's still sitting on that franchise's, so-called books would be, it's disturbing. Like, I mean, there's owners that have gone through one and done coaches 2 years in a row. How much money is being wasted on human capital that's not even in the building?
Okay, the Raiders reach an agreement with Pete Carroll on a 3-year deal, 4th-year team option. That's the reporting out there. Carroll is turning 74 years old in September. Now is one of just 4 head coaches. First of all, one of 4 coaches to have a college national championship and a Super Bowl. We know his resume. He's also on a very short list now in NFL history of coaches that got a 4th job, which also is a sign you must be doing something right to get a 4th chance at this. So after a couple seasons out of the league, he takes over for the Raiders. The Raiders were hot, apparently, Mark, for Ben Johnson. They didn't get their guy. So here's the pivot to Pete Carroll, which I like the hire. I think it's a professional guy to get in there that knows how to build a program. And yes, he's 74, but I think anybody that follows this sport knows that he's not your typical 74-year-old.
Carroll has extreme human energy. This is a Tom Brady story to me. Like, he spent hours talking to Ben Johnson, and I don't think this happens without Tom Brady being involved in all of this. And it's just crazy to me that we've got like a national the lead broadcaster concocting deals for the Raiders and bringing Pete Carroll there. I'm with you though. I really like the hire. I just think it's kind of crazy that Tom Brady is the reason this happened.
Do you feel, Mark, a little bit like Tom Brady has become the first grown-up in the room with the Raiders?
Yes, because I think this is a grown-up hire, and like that's the one thing. And I guess it's unusual for me, like for a 3-year contract. That's age. That's an age scenario here with Pete Carroll. But like, yes, I look at the Raiders differently because of what Brady was able to do, and they brought a real head coach there.
Exactly. And I think what's happened is, and I pat on my own back, but early in the week I came out and said, watch Pete Carroll, a video for Underdog. Make sure you keep an eye on Pete Carroll. And John Spytek only pushed that even further. I had heard from multiple people, if it's Spytek, it's Pete Carroll. If it's Pete Carroll, it's Spytek. And so whichever way it happened. And the funny part is they don't really have a relationship. It's just those were the top two that they were looking for and hoping they could land them both once they moved on from Ben Johnson. To me, what ends up happening here is they finally made a decision, and Brady is a very big part of that, is that he's the one, essentially, to my understanding, to say 2 days later, Tom Telesco rolls into the building and goes, hey, remember you thought you still had a job? You don't. You're gone. I want to start this from scratch and build this thing from our new ownership perception, which is less volatile and less impatient, I would say, around the league now with Brady and company coming in, to the general manager, to the head coach. That alignment in terms of football philosophy is maybe number one priority for Tom Brady. And the other point I'll add is I was talking to an assistant general manager with another team who was like, Pete Carroll's the best candidate in this cycle, and it's not even close in terms of resume, in terms of coaching, in terms of won a Super Bowl. Like, age is the only knock you can have to him. And like what Dan said, like, he doesn't act 74, he acts 52. Right. So like, if you really look at it correctly, this is the best candidate on the slate.
Yeah, I think the Raiders do a lot of dumb things. This one feels like a great move for them. And I think his situation is very similar to what we've been talking about with the Steelers. And I credit the Seahawks for this because it's not easy to do. Like, they didn't bottom out with Pete Carroll. They were still competitive. He was still
last year.
He still knew exactly what he was doing and how to build a winning program and compete for division championships seemingly year after year. But they just got to a point after a decade plus together where the Seahawks felt it was time for something new, to go in a different direction, which I think the Steelers are terrified to do because they love Mike Tomlin so much, even though they're parked in the same cul-de-sac of elite mediocrity. So now Pete Carroll does not leave. Thank you. He does not. I'm trying to get it off the ground. He does not leave Seattle because he's old and inept and stumbling around and falling up the steps to Air Force One. He is still ready and capable to do the job. So I think the Raiders, maybe they got it on ageism discount here, and you'll take that as a Raiders fan. Because hot damn, you're in a division where you look at the other head coaches, Andy Reid in Kansas City, Sean Payton in Denver, Jim Harbaugh in it's basically an old age home there, but these guys are all like Hall of Fame level coaches, and now the Raiders have one of their own. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but he's a proven winner over decades. Good job, Raiders.
I think he should get into the Hall of Fame just for what he did with Russell Wilson, hiding that for as long as he did. That's Hall of Fame credentials right there for Pete Carroll.
Mark, any thoughts on this before we pivot, because it is a dirty 30.
It is a wild division. Like, that lineup of coaches is wild. And, like, I think it changes the Raiders comprehensively. Like, I've been down on the Raiders for, I feel like, a decade, and they've not been a serious operation. And so maybe the hiring of Tom Brady is just the actual real owner there. That's how I kind of view it. He made this happen. Mark Davis would not have made this happen.
Are you just saying that, or is that what people are saying? Like, how much was Brady part of this?
Massive say. Massive say.
Yes.
That's interesting.
A perfect example, Dan, honestly, is that Ben Davis had no interest in that job until Brady's sale pitch, and then he actually had interest in the job. If that doesn't show you.
Geez, are the Raiders making good decisions? Like getting Tom in there to bring some respect to the organization?
Yeah.
If
all of that happens, imagine what the Raiders could become with the facility they have, the location they have, the stadium they have, the fan base they have, and Pete brings a culture like. In 2 years, they could be a free agent destination.
I almost said watch the Raiders do what the Chargers did this year with Harbaugh, but I think the Raiders are a little bit more far behind, most importantly at the quarterback position, where it might take some time, but Pete will get the other things figured out while they figure out QB. So good stuff.
True.
Raiders hold the number 6 overall pick and have $108 million in cap space.
Okay.
Go to work. Go to work, Spytek. Do you think Tom Brady hired Spytek just because he was a big fan of spying with the Patriots?
They played at Michigan together.
What I said, Mark.
Sorry. Because of what?
He's a cheater with the Patriots because the Patriots cheated.
Yes, I think that's the reason.
In depth.
Yeah. Dirty 30. Transition. Finally, James, hit us up on the Cowboys situation. As we're recording this, nothing is set in stone, but reporting out there that Brian Schottenheimer, remember a week ago, we're all goo goo gaga about Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like it has a lot of momentum right now, but Brian Schottenheimer is among a small group of candidates that the Cowboys brought in formally, and it seems like right now it's heading in that direction.
Yeah, it does. I can't think of Schottenheimer.
Look who's calling you right now. Can you imagine being this handsome?
Wow.
It's not
What a
fair. He's
dreamboat.
very tall. He's very handsome. He's very British. He's got the
Let me
British
answer this.
accent.
Let me just let him
People
know.
like that.
Henry, I'm doing a Dirty 30 emergency podcast, so can I give you a call back?
Yeah, whatever works.
All right, I love you.
Did you say, yeah, whatever works?
Yep, he certainly did. He certainly did.
All right.
He's great.
And see,
Dirty 30. We have 5 minutes and 30 seconds left.
What's happening in Dallas is, once again, I've heard from people around the league that believe there's not much of a plan right now. We'll see what's going on with Brian Schottenheimer. The Saints are waiting till after these championship games to really move forward with their process. With Jerry, it's like it could happen today. It could happen 3 weeks from now for what he's thinking. I would keep an eye, though, on those championship games, specifically the NFC championship game, because one of those offensive coordinators could be your next head coach. I mean, Kellen Moore obviously has the ties there. He did the interview there. Dak played great under him. There's a lot of familiarity, staff, all this stuff would be kind of easy. But I've heard from around the league a little bit. It's more of a Kellen wants the job than the Cowboys want Kellen to have the job. Doesn't mean they don't, but in every relationship, somebody wants it a little bit more. And it seems like that might be Kellen. I wouldn't sleep on Cliff Kingsbury. There's a bit of a buzz, guys, going around the league that like he is only going to pick up the phone for the Cowboys. And which is a main it makes sense to me too, which is the main reason he said, like, I'm not going to entertain anything until my season is over with the Commanders, aka don't call me because I'm only waiting for one person to call me. That's what it sounds like to a lot of people around the league. And there's a lot of things that you could like about it. You think Cliff and Dak could probably have some success together. And if you don't think that those dreamy eyes and those sunglasses don't want to walk around the star, I mean, I think it's a fit, in all honesty. And I think Jerry might know that too. That's something
Walking
I definitely
sunglasses, unbelievable image.
Oh, Cliff in sunglasses. I mean, ever since that picture of him during the COVID draft.
Oh, yeah.
Was just like from GQ magazine.
Right.
Well Jordan mentioned that the idea of hat fishing, which is someone looking hot in a hat and taking it off, and it's like, whoa, look out. Maybe not.
Not in a good way.
I thought it was in a bad way.
Well, I said not in a good way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They take the hat off and like their attractiveness.
But isn't like sunglasses the original hatfish? Like,
I think so.
Somebody looks good in sunglasses.
You're making a good point.
In sunglasses, you take them off and it's like, uh-oh, look out, monster. I'm not saying that Cliff sunglass fishes, but I'm saying he looks awesome in sunglasses.
He really does.
I'll leave it there.
I think it's like the head shape, the symmetry of the head. Mm-hmm. That's a big part of how these
shade
things
fishing.
look on you.
Does that work? Shades? Like
shade fishing. Yeah. I like that. I don't know what you guys think, but I mean, there seems to be some real steam with Brian Schottenheimer. I don't.
Is that
get it?
I like that you're not buying into it. And I hope you're right because it makes us all look good. Yeah. Justin wants to, because we only have 2 minutes and 45 seconds left in this Dirty 30. Should we talk about what real quick? Quicker, Justin.
Sorry, yes, we should possibly hit Bobby Slowik being fired by the Texans, which happened right after we started this taping.
Oh my God, Dirty 30. Why?
You guys know that I've been around this team a lot. I've spent a lot of time with the Houston Texans, still know a lot of people in that building, and everybody assumed that there was not going to be a sophomore slump with this offense and CJ Stroud. Bobby Slowik was a hot name. They loved what they designed as an offense, and everybody thought it was going to take another step as they believed they were a legitimate Super Bowl contender, but that didn't happen this year. They almost took a step backwards offensively. Yes, there were injuries at the skill position spots. Yes, there was some shuffling on that offensive line, but you get the sense that there were some things that needed to be corrected, and they weren't fully corrected. And that was one of the things that was maybe the biggest issue. So one of the things that I would say about this is now you're changing systems for your star quarterback, potentially changing systems, but in a way you are in a good offensive coordinator, a lot of people's minds is now available in a kind of a thin pool with some openings.
Hello, Aaron Glenn, pick up the phone. Mark, isn't it possible that sometimes it's as simple as that CJ Stroud was 2023's Jaden Daniels, and the Houston Texans are probably mega butthurt that he leveled off this year. I know there's injuries in offensive line and all that stuff, but
receiver
that did not help him at all. That Stroud went from absolute superstar to, okay, he took a step back. We have 1 minute and 15 seconds.
They have massive protection issues, but I think it's like the coordinator is the scapegoat in these situations. And like we just talked about Bobby Slowik, 12, 14 minutes ago, as like your star rises and it falls. And it's kind of a hit for the PFF community because he had a PFF background and they took a lot of pride in that. But you're out. You got to go find someone better though.
Yeah, he's a Mike Shanahan guy, not a Kyle Shanahan guy. Mike Shanahan guy. You got to find somebody. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in-house quarterback coach slides up, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how many jobs are left right now?
2 head coaching and 3 offensive coordinator and 1 general manager. Right.
The Jets, it's still floating out there as we
Two
tape dirty.
2 general managers, I guess. Yeah, Jets are still out there. Jets are almost done, but Jets.
I feel like
Jags.
This was a successful Dirty 30, and we'll continue to do them as necessary. Check out the Patreon show. Right now, we have a new episode up with Connor where we pick the awards that are coming out for NFL honors, and then Sunday back flagship show with special guest Jordan Rodrigue joining us to break those games down. Bye-bye. It got dirty on this 30.
Dirty 30.